Well, the players are off today, so let's give them a little chance. We've had a couple good work days here. Several in the past week or so. So this will give us a good chance to kind of get a little rest, recover a little bit here, and then be ready to go. For a couple more sessions here before we have to reduce our roster, and then fully turn our attention to Miami. So. From a staff standpoint, also gives us a chance to kind of get caught up on a few things here that have been piling up, and obviously some of the decisions that we'll have to make. So we get a little bit of a head start on some of those conversations and so forth. But I thought we had a couple good days here at the start of the week, and it's good to see those starting to string together a little bit. Obviously, still have a long way to go, but. Players have worked hard. They've really, improved a lot from not only where we started, but even a few days ago. So that's encouraging. I think if we can maintain our work ethic and our discipline and continue to build that consistency, then we'll be on the right track. Even though it's going to be a long trip. So, all right.
First question, Mike Reese, followed by Alan Siegel.
Great. Good morning, Bill. What have you seen from the competition at wide receiver? And when putting together that group, how much consideration is there given to, you want a diversity of skill sets? Not having the same type of, 5'10", whatever. Just pick a physical trait. You don't want 5'10", 175-pound guys, or maybe you do. I don't know how much consideration is given to something like that.
Right. Well, I think the second question first. More than the physical skill set really is the position that the receivers play. So, we have outside receivers, we have inside receivers, and then have receivers that can, let's say, play both or have some combination of skills where they can play both spots. So all three are important. I mean, some guys can be outside only, some guys can be inside only. Some guys can have that flexibility. In the end, I think it's really more about production and performance, although size and skill set plays a part in that as well. So they are related, but really the most important thing is to be productive. So whether it's we've had them in different shapes and sizes. We had Deion Branch and Randy Moss, and they were both outside receivers, and could be more different. So but I think the typical stature of certain positions is I think that can be identified, but if there's an exception to that and the guy's a good player, then that's okay too. Competition at that position's been good. It's as always, that's the type of position where you can really see an individual highlight play or a play that may not be as good, a drop ball or a spectacular catch, and those players are a lot more visible and really easily identifiable relative to an interior line play or that type of thing. Now, again, with that position, it's important to develop consistency, and there's a lot of times receivers are open and the ball's thrown to the other side of the field or they're covered, and so that's all part of it too. It's not just those highlight plays that everybody sees, but really the evaluation of the player's consistency to, win his route, or block the player that he's supposed to block in the running game as part of the run force and so forth. So it's I think there are a lot of things at that position that are subtle to the naked eye, and it really comes down to again, that play after play consistency. The highlight plays stand out, but and they're important too, one way or the other. But I would say the consistency overall is also something that you can't lose sight of.
Next question, Alan Siegel, followed by Joe.
Thanks, Dave. Casey. Good morning, Bill.
Hey, Alan.
I was wondering, talking about the 53 here, with no work against other teams this year, out of necessity, have you had to change at all the criteria that you use for evaluating the strengths and the weaknesses in terms of, setting up that final roster? And has it, because of no work, been a little bit more difficult than normal?
Well, I think there are a few more questions than normal. Yes, just because there's just less to evaluate. So that's always the case. Anytime you have less information, it's probably you're a little less certain than you are when you have more information. Again, we've dealt with this before, where players might play in one or sometimes no preseason games, and then you're kind of left in that same spot. They practice for a week or so and then come back at the end of preseason, but either aren't able to play or don't play in the last preseason game, and it's the same conversation we're having right now. So we've been there before, but usually that's with a limited number of players. This year it's with everybody. So we'll just have to take the information that we have, the competition that we've had on the field, both in one-on-one drills and group drills and team drills, and also there's some things that we do that our opponents don't do as much of. So a player may look a little better or maybe a little worse against our team based on what he's working against and what we do than maybe what the norm is out there. So we have to take that into consideration as well. It's a little bit of projection, but and other teams have the same kind of the same conversation. So we're all playing on the same field. We just have to do the best we can with the information and knowledge that we have, and make the decisions that we feel are best for the team. And so that's what we'll try to do here in the next few days.
Next question, Jim McBride, followed by Tom Curran.
Good morning, Coach.
Hey, Jim.
We've seen a lot of guys take reps at the two return spots, and I'm wondering how you have liked the competition for those two roles.
Yeah, it's a similar question really to what Alan just asked, and that the return position in particular is a little bit like the running back position. It's really hard to tell how those guys do with the ball in their hands based on the limited amount of live tackling we've done as a team. Now, we've done individual tackling and fundamental tackling, but we've limited the live tackling reps, and that's really where those guys excel, right? Is in the open field with the ball in their hands. Can they make the first guy miss? Can they gain extra yards in the open field with their return skills? How do they handle the ball? The decision making with guys on them, or fair catching, and so forth, setting up blocks, and showing their strength or quickness or run instincts in a live setting as opposed to a team setting where generally we're tagging off. So it makes that a little bit of a tougher evaluation, and that's, again, we'll just have to do the best that we can there. But I think that we have a number of players that have shown promise in practice. I think that's it's a leap of faith to just go from practice to the game, especially at that position. Troy, I think, has done a great job of working with those guys, and they've improved tremendously in the last month in terms of their ball handling, decision making, overall technique, awareness of the coverage, distribution, and what to do. So we're catching the ball better, we're making better decisions, we're doing more things right, and understanding what to do right. But what that'll really look like in live competition is a little hard to say with certainty. It'll be a couple tough decisions how we're going to handle that. We've already talked about that relative to those players who also have skill at other positions. So we're not just talking about guys that are just pure returners. So you evaluate their return ability versus another player who does something else, plays defense, or is a receiver or running back or whatever it happens to be. Like, all the guys that we're talking about have other skills as well. So it'll really be a combination of factors that go into that decision and that competition, which makes it that'll make it for some interesting discussions here in the next couple days. But it's a competitive spot, and it'll probably be I'd say not maybe a clear cut. We're going to have to see how this goes a little bit. And obviously, we have a couple guys back there with experience. Obviously Julian, as a punt returner, has done that throughout his career. But that's something that we haven't used him as much on as in the past. And I think that's probably the right thing to do. Although we'll certainly need his availability at some point, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Next question, Tom Curran, followed by Phil Perry.
Hey, Bill. This kind of flows off a little bit of what Jim was asking is, with the lack of the full contact, how are you and your staff grappling with the idea that perhaps that first game against Miami will be the first time in which guys are tackled to the ground? And that might be a big leap for guys, in terms of contested catches, getting hit, quarterbacks, etc., and even for the defensive players to be able to finish and follow through on their hits and get guys to the ground. Is there going to be a point at which you give kind of a window for these guys to hit, or how are you approaching that?
Yeah, well, we've had plenty of contact in practice, so I wouldn't say that that's an area that we're necessarily deficient in. The contact in the game is a little bit different. And we've dealt with, really, I'd say all kinds of contact. And we've live tackled. We've tackled guys to the ground, but we've done it in a more of a one-on-one setting as opposed to, game conditions. Now, we've done some of it in game conditions, too. We've, tackled live as a team in a few selected drills, but not extensively. And that's for the safety of the players. But we have had contact, and we've had contact, and we've tackled, and the runners have, taken contact with the ball in their hands, and the tacklers have, had to get guys on the ground like we're going to have to do. I'm sure that's a skill that we'll have to acquire a little bit, as we always do. I mean, it's similar in preseason, honestly. If you look at, how many tackles some of the guys that play a lot in the regular season, make in preseason. I don't think you're talking about, numbers that are up in the dozens and the hundreds or anything like that. Be a couple here and there, but that's really about what it is. So we'll be less than that, but I would say it's not a whole lot different than what it normally is. We'll have to see how it goes, but I think we've prepared our players for that. I think they've had their opportunities to feel the contact and to feel as close to game reps as we can get without playing in a game. There's another level to that we'll have to experience, but I think we'll be prepared to take that next step, and then we'll have to refine it from there. I don't think it'll be perfect, but I think it'll be competitive, and we'll continue to work and improve on it.
And I was just real quick to follow, Joe Judge actually had Daniel Jones take off the red jersey just to get him jostled around a little bit. Would you do that at all with your quarterbacks, do you think?
Yeah, we'll do what we think is best for the team, Tom, same as we always do.
Next question, Phil Perry, followed by Doug Kine.
Hey, Bill, I'm not sure if this is a continuation of a similar discussion here from the last couple questions, but I am curious because we've talked a couple times this offseason about the similarities and differences between this year and 2011. And one thing I noticed about 2011 is that it just looked like the offensive numbers from early in that season were pretty high. I think there were some historically good numbers, especially in terms of the passing game early that year. And I'm curious if you remember anything about that year, if there was a trend that year that led to that offensive sort of output, and if you have to be aware of that going into this next season and, guarding against something similar maybe potentially happening.
Yeah, well, I'd say we're going to try to perform well in all three areas of the game: offense, defense, and special teams. So that's what our goal and objectives are, and that's what we're going to try to do. I think anytime you have high offensive output, that's a combination of good offense and probably bad defense, and vice versa. A lot of times when you have low offensive output, it's a combination of good defense and bad offense. So we're going to try to eliminate as many bad plays as we can, and try to have as many good plays as we can. So we'll see what happens. I don't want to live in the past and worry about the past. I want us to try to be as good as we can be at all the things that we do, and that's what we're going to try to do.
Did you think that that may have had anything to do with maybe limitations when it comes to tackling and things like that, Bill, that year?
Yeah. There's so many individual situations that we could talk about there. I don't know. I'd have to go back and study it more closely. But again, I would say when you have high offensive output, certainly credit to go to the offense for their execution. But I would say unequivocally that there's also some bad defense in there that goes with that good offense, and vice versa. So, in the end, great players are going to make some great plays, and they're hard to defend. But when you don't play good defense and you just give up easy plays, then that's not really a statement of great offensive football necessarily. It's more bad defensive football. So we'll see. Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
Thanks,
I
Bill.
apologize to those we don't get to, but we'll have Doug Kyde. You're the last question.
Good morning, Bill. Deatrich Wise acknowledged that he bulked up a little bit this offseason. Would that allow him to either move around a little bit more or potentially play different positions on your defense? I know it might be kind of minimal, but how much of an impact does that make?
Well, I think Deatrich is a very unique player. He has such a big frame and a good frame that he's the type of player that can put on a significant amount of weight based on the scale and not really look too much different. And I think that's really been the case. I know we talked about that when the season's over. We've talked about it several times since then, and but I think the weight that he's put on has been good weight. He's worked hard at it, and he doesn't look a lot different than what he looked like before or last year at a lower weight. So I think his play's improved. I think some of that's due to technique and experience. But he is a little bit bigger and a little bit stronger. So I don't think that's I think that's a good thing, not a bad thing. But in the end, I think the major improvement in his play from what I've seen so far this year in training camp has just been, his technique, how quickly he reads and reacts and recognizes plays, and just being, a better, improving in some of the fundamentals. He's a very hard worker, and he's the type of kid that when you ask him to work on something, he really goes all in and makes a strong commitment to try to improve it and make it better. And that's been evident, this year, the areas that he's, dedicated himself to improving, and that's shown up on the field. So really been impressed with what he's been able to do so far.
Thank you, Coach. Thanks, everyone. We'll have assistant coaches coming up in about 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks, Dave.
How do we inspire people to lead their healthiest lives? How do we bring everyone together so that healthcare finally works for all of us? We know how. We are the how. Optum. How well gets done.
What's my retirement savings plan? Oil, baby. Oil. Sprinkler pipe. Diane!
Ready or not.
Gillette ProGlide and ProGlide Gel. 5 blades and a pivoting flex ball designed to get virtually every hair on the first stroke while washing away dirt and oil. So you're ready for the day with a clean shave and a clean face.
For over 60 years, this team has transformed itself into a championship organization. For over 160 years, our team has demonstrated a similar mentality. There are no days off. Our front lines are fortified by people who sacrifice individuality for the team. Our shelves are also stocked with the best quality products and ingredients. Our team members know their roles. We're proud. to do our jobs. Shaw's, the official supermarket of the 6-time champion New England Patriots.
My Caleb sofa and love seat. With Bob's discount, you get both pieces for just $7.99.
$7.99? Are you joking?
Do I look like I'm joking?
Yes, you look like you're joking.
I'm serious.
Cool.
Get Bob's discount! How do we inspire people to lead their healthiest lives? How do we bring everyone together so that healthcare finally works for all of us? We know how. We are the how. Optum. How well gets done.